Hello and welcome to my show, Could You Be More Specific? I'm your host, Jonathan Steele, and on this episode of Could You Be More Specific, coming to you by the way of the Stay Well podcast, I'm titling this Power Trip, and I'm going to touch on the recent Colin Kaepernick ruling that was going to allow his case of collusion to go to trial against the NFL, and I'm also going to touch on the most recent episode of Power. It's one of my favorite shows, and I want to talk about this recent episode and the lead up to next week's episode being the finale. But I'm going to start with Kaepernick. I know a lot of people in the news arena was kind of surprised that based off the arbitrator that the NFL usually goes to, that is actually going to actually rule that Kaepernick actually does have a case in regards to collusion, which is really not that surprising. And that's mainly because anybody with eyes can obviously tell that at bare minimum, he would still be in the league just based off his skill set alone. And the season that he had on a bad team would still lead to him being a quarterback in the league. And it's amazing on how powerful you could be in silence, because throughout this whole time, Kaepernick has never made a public statement. All the stuff that you've heard about him, whether it's about him wanting to be a starter or he wants a contract that pays him a lot of money, it's all been hearsay, and they've been kind of stumbling for a long time. And the fact that he continues to still have the impact that he has on the NFL and he's not even in the league goes to show you on how resilient and how strong his efforts and his character has remained in terms of how it's been affecting the league. And I know for a lot of football guys, they don't like that. A lot of football people were mad when President Obama said if he had a son, he wouldn't let them play football. Like, they're very protective of that, even though evidence shows that CTE is on the rise and continues to be a huge component to why a lot of the youth leagues and participations in the sport are down and are continually dropping. They don't want to hear that kind of stuff. And like even recently, I know I've talked about him on the previous episode. As far as Jason Whitlock goes, some of the comments he made, I know they were talking about it recently on the show that, hey, he just wants his salary, so they'll probably give him $25 million, 30 or 40 to just, walk away. It'll be no admission of guilt. And I don't think Kaepernick is going to do that. He's come too far to just be settled at paying him some money and going about his business. They're hoping that. They will love that. But unfortunately for them, that's not going to happen, because I know I've talked about this before, and it really is true, is that the most dangerous person oftentimes is someone that cannot be bought. People like them who are billionaires, if they know you don't have a price, it makes you all the more difficult for them to handle in trying to control. I think they can offer Colin Kaepernick $100 million and he wouldn't take it. I think he wants them to have to face the music in a courtroom where they face the possible chance of legally perjuring themselves to say what we already know what the issue is, and that is because he did what he did, they decided that they did not want him no longer to be represented in the league. Period. In some ways, I think Kaepernick did kind of make it to where it was hard on himself, because first of all, he signed a team-friendly deal at the height of his play with the 49ers. And really the last several years that he played where the team started to struggle, his contract was really going to kick in for him around these past 2 to 3 seasons. And him reworking his contract and wanting to become a free agent, to me, I personally at the time didn't think that really made sense. I don't think he should have did that. But that's just me personally. But I think he was willing to bet on himself at the time and rework his deal and possibly go on his way. Because he was thinking like, hey, talent should trump some of the stuff that, people have said about him. Because you see it now in the league. It's still not 25 plus guys, 20. He's a top, 15, 16 quarterback easily still in the league on the right team, especially. Could be higher. But, I think he just decided he didn't want to be under the rule of thumb of money. So he was already letting you know then he wasn't about the money, because he didn't have to renegotiate with the 49ers. He could have left his cap number the way it was and just stuck it to him, but he didn't want to do that. So for these guys like Jason Whitlock and people on ESPN who have spent millions upon millions of dollars to get football don't like the fact that he's affecting football the way that he is. And I think it's a scary thought for him because it'll bust up their CBA. There's a good chance probably that this could affect owners if proven to be guilty of this. Could they be forced to sell their teams? So it's something that I think that it's to pay attention moving forward. It's going to be really fascinating to see this possibly go to trial. And I don't think Kaepernick is going to take the buyout. So those are just some of the thoughts that I have on that. I'll definitely probably be following that up on this topic, especially in the coming weeks, because I know it's going to continue to be ongoing. But I'm going to transition out of that, and I want to talk about one of my favorite shows on TV. It's obviously Power, and it's been a really great season. They just had their 9th episode. It's really fascinating to see how things have been kind of building up. I know the week before I was really surprised that they actually ended up killing Kanan, the 50 Cent character, because if you think about it, you would have thought he would have died probably the first or second season, but he lived. You know, he had multiple lives left, and it's been a long time coming for him. I can see why they probably went the direction of killing him. Honestly, I'm in the camp of everyone who, if I see an episode where Tariq doesn't make it out, I would be very happy with that. I've never been more comfortable with a teenager biting the dust. I know a lot of people used to root for Carl on The Walking Dead to die, but I'm like, at least Carl thinks of his family. All Tariq thinks about is himself. He's a rich kid born on third base that now decides that he wants to be a thug, essentially. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be a criminal, and you got a father like Ghost, who, or should I say James, because I like calling him James St. Patrick, because that's his real name as far as the character goes. But it's so weird that, you know, you had someone like him that didn't have options, and he never wanted to be a criminal. He just did what was in front of him, and then you got someone like Tariq that wants to now someone start acting like he's hard, and all of a sudden now he wants to be a criminal, and now he's calling his father Ghost, which, ironically, I know a lot of people won't agree with this, but I blame his mom, because they call him that all the time, and that's, to me, I know some people have mixed feelings about the whole Tasha Angela thing. To me, I don't think James would have never checked for Angela if, in the very beginning of the show, for people who followed it, if she just backed the fact that he was going to be legit and they were going to live a nice, clean lifestyle, they would have been fine. I think he would have just saw Angela and been like, oh, so nice. I saw a childhood sweetheart. Hope things are well for you. And he would have went about his business. Even to this day, she really refers to him by his name as a criminal. She does not really acknowledge him as a person. And to me, that's always been one of the reasons when watching the show for fans of Tasha's who feels like, you know, James, or should I say Ghost, doesn't really support her or is kind of doing it wrong. I'm like, she kind of created this monster. Because you can't say you want a guy to behave and live in the world and the mindset that he's living in under that alias, and then you all of a sudden think he's going to come home and be this just all-around straight-laced guy. Like, that's not how this thing works. You have to have the right mindset and mentality to survive in those environments. And he does a really good job of managing to do really well in both. But on this episode, it was really interesting to see how things unfold with Tommy. Tommy's always the last person to get on the train. It's like you have to put things directly in front of his face in order for him to see it. And to me, Tommy's a shining example of why a lot of people can trip themselves up. Just because you're blood related does not mean y'all have a built-in loyalty towards one another. That's something that has to be earned. No offense, there's no reason why, logically, that you would have more loyalty towards the dad you just met several weeks or months ago versus a guy who's literally been looking out for you nearly all your life. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but Tommy's been that way from the beginning of the show. And what happened on last night's episode with, you know, things kind of being revealed to him what his father was, it's been like that since it began when he was dating that Holly girl. As soon as he got him a girl, he started acting kind of funny. And, you know, and he always tells people stuff. He always includes them on stuff all the time. And that's one of the things Tommy's an entertaining character, but I'd be thinking like, man, no, the only reason why he's probably lasted this long is because he's been linked to Ghost. That's something that, to me, watching last night's episode and watching how things kind of unfolded with him and his father, it's like, again, he's back to the same position where he's at, where even though his mom has her issues, she's still been there for him. Even though she's got her own stuff, she still loves him and she still supports him in her own way. That's something that, how that episode ends, especially with him and his mom, I thought was really interesting, because it was almost like he went back to being like a little kid again in that moment. But watching how things are starting to play out with Angela, especially at her job, is really interesting. I kind of don't think the finale is going to probably wrap up to where she obviously ends up in jail. I don't think that's going to happen. One, because she just nailed a huge bust for them. To then turn around, if you're her co-workers, which makes no sense, you're going to then try and say she was a consigliere, so then that would then nullify the bust she just did on the cartels. That would be one of the biggest public disasters you could probably see. Well, then, wait a minute, so she works for another criminal organization, but she busts this one? Like, I don't think that they're playing that all the way right. And Angela, from the very beginning, and another reason why I think that she's always probably been the main one for James, is because of that. She's always acknowledged him for who he was, not who other people want him to be. And I think that's why his love and devotion for her will always last. And Angela's done a lot for him. She's put her career and her livelihood and her freedom in jeopardy for him. So that's kind of been one of the more fascinating things, especially seeing how things are going to be unfolding. And I know Dre, who I'm not fond of either, and he's another one. You know, first of all, the fact that Ghost even decided to take him under his wing, even though he was working with Kanan in the beginning, to sabotage him and take him out. What does he do? He gives him a job, puts him working under him, being his second in command at his clubs. He starts living better, making legit money. And then the first chance he got to really stab him in the back, he took that chance. And now it's not shocking to see how things have unfolded with him and Cristobal, who I don't think is all that bad of a guy for what he does. I think he's one of those people where he just wants to make his money and keep it cool. I don't think he's really that obsessed with being the man. And that's why I've never understood why Drake kind of does him like that. But seeing how things are kind of just unraveling for him and like there's nowhere to go, I kind of wouldn't be shocked if he were to meet his end on the finale, but I would be I'm kind of leaning towards I don't think that's going to happen. But there was a lot of really good things that happened in this episode. It's been a great show to watch. I never feel like this is forced TV to watch either. And that's another thing I love about Power too, is that it's 5 seasons in, and I've never felt bored with the show. So I'm looking forward to the finale. And so those are some of the things I just want to touch upon with Power and with these topics. I also want to acknowledge, I know the funerals of John McCain and Aretha Franklin were this week. I know it was a lot. They had a lot of support, and that was a really great thing to see. So I'm hoping for the best for their families and for the people that knew them. I want to thank all you guys who've been following and listening to the pod. Definitely support us, become a patron. I want to thank D for all the work that he's done and continuing to do to put these shows together. I want to thank you guys. Definitely like, share, and follow this. And again, I'm your host, Jonathan Steele. Thank you for listening. Could you be more specific? And I'll be seeing you guys and doing more of these pods in the future. Looking to do some more things going forward. I have some other ideas. And looking to talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.